All right, this is a solution to problem number 28 on the 7-2 homework, which involves finding the volume of the function y equals e to the x over 2 and y equals 0. So we're looking at a region bounded by these things, x equals 0 and x equals 4. So we're going to take that region, or that area that's bounded by those four equations, and revolve it around the x-axis. First things first, we need a picture. So what does that look like? Well, e to the x over 2 is going to be an exponential curve. We know that when x is equal to 0, that's going to be at 1. And I just want to ballpark here. So it's going to be an exponential curve, so it's going to look something like this. It's going to stop at 4. And so it's bounded by y equals 0, which is the x-axis, x equals 0, which is the y-axis, and x equals 4. So this is the region that we're going to revolve around the x-axis. I need a representative rectangle. Okay, now I've got a good picture. And so the first thing I ask myself is, what about my representative rectangle? Well, I know that it's touching the axis of revolution and it's perpendicular to the axis of revolution, therefore I'm going to generate a disk. Okay. So that means that my volume here will be equal to pi times the integral, and I'm integrating from 0 to 4, because again, I'm sliding my rectangles left and right. So I'm going from the x value of 0 all the way to the x value of 4. The height of that rectangle is the function. So top minus bottom, e to the x minus 2 minus the bottom, which is 0, and I want to square that, times the thickness of that rectangle, which is dx. So that gives me my setup. That'll give me this portion with the pi gives me the area of the rectangle, sorry, the volume of the disk you get from the rectangle, and then integrating it will act as an accumulator to add up all those values. So before I take an integral, I'm going to clean things up a little bit here. This is 4 from 0 to 4. E to the x over 2 raised to the second power, power raised to a power you multiply, so we get e to the x dx. This one's not too bad then. So taking the integral of e to the x, well, the integral of e to the x is itself, so we take e to the x and we're going to evaluate it from 4 to 0. Which would be pi times e to the 4th, which is that. And the 0 matters here because e to the 0 is not 0, e to the 0 is 1. And so we get that as a volume, which doesn't mean much, so we probably want a decimal equivalent there. And the decimal equivalent is 168.384. Don't forget 3 decimal places always, because that's the AP standard. Okay, so depending on whether this was on a calculator or a non-calculator type question, if it was on a non-calculator, you would stop there. If it was a calculator, you'd take that decimal equivalent of 168.384.